All right, Melanated family, another week, another episode, another dialogue, right? This is your brother Harrison, the Melanated Convo podcast. I'm happy to be back for another week. I have particular people who are becoming reoccurring guests, and this sister is one of them. We plan on doing this weekly where we come to you and talk about news stories, things on our heart, things going on in the community. But the basis of it is, hey, we love y'all. Maybe we got to fix this. Maybe we got to look out for him. Maybe we got to look at ourselves. See, because it's always going to be a 360 conversation. Like, I'm going to talk about white supremacy because it's on our neck. But you Negroes, kind of piss me off sometime too. So we need to talk about everything here on the show. So today on the show, creator and founder, CEO of a Scribe educational consultant. She goes into your job and she's seen you touch Shaniqua hair. And she like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't touch her hair. Yeah, y'all, you guys tell racial jokes in the break room. Maybe you shouldn't do that. So my sister comes to your job, your workplace, your environment, and she educates people, all jokes aside, she educates people on how we should address racial issues in the workplace. Sometimes people are racist. Sometimes people are ignorant. Sometimes people have no idea what they just said could be offensive. So my sister goes into environments and assists them with these type of things. Welcome to another episode with me, Sonia. How you doing today, sister?
I am always, like I told you before, I'm always excited to be in this space. I'm always excited to share conversations with folks that look like us so we can delve into these topics, because even though the grand arching theme is white supremacy and how it's on our neck, we are always conditioned to play a part in that system. And so that leads us to self-hatred and anti-Blackness even within our community, and it causes problems. And so we don't want that divide, but it's an intentional divide.
It's an intentional divide. And I always say, like I said last week, Sonia, two things to be right at the same time. We have a system on our neck, but accountability in any situation can never be put to the side. You always have to consider that, right? So first news story, right? Something I want to talk about with my sister Sonia in Indiana. And I'm going to play the video here really quickly. Well, actually, first, I'm going to play the video, and then me and Sonia are going to give our perspectives on the video, because we have cops stopping a homeless black man, basically. Yeah. And, as we see a lot of times, the amount of force that's used when we're addressed, is something that we should look at, like, intensely, because stopping somebody, if you pull somebody over or pull them out of their car or off their bike and they're a little, let's say they're a little upset or they're not cooperating as much as you want them to go on a full physical attack ain't right. Like, to go on a full physical attack shows me that it could be something else. Yeah. So let's look at this video real quick. Then me and my sister Sonia talk about it. Hold on one second. Let me find it. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Let me mute this.
No, that was a thing. Nobody cares what you do anymore.
I know nobody
cares what you do anymore. You understand that?
Lean back.
Nobody cares what you do anymore.
Nobody cares what you're
saying. No, nobody cares what you do either. You understand that?
Yeah, I'm not the one out here complaining.
No, that was a thing. Nobody cares what you do anymore.
I know nobody
cares what you do anymore. You understand that?
Lean back.
Nobody cares what you do anymore.
Lean back.
How the am I gonna lean back with the you hold my belt?
Look,
we're not gonna do this,
right? We're not gonna do this, right? We're done.
You're done. You're done. You're done.
Are we done now?
Roll over. You're done.
I can't.
Roll over.
I can't.
You're done. There you go. You're done. There you go.
There you
You're
go.
done. Police brutality.
Okay, so Sonia, when we're looking at that video, we see how they had him. So you whatever crime, whatever you're accused of, once I have you in handcuffs, you're accosted. I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. What goes through your mind when you see a cop being kind of rough? The dude's talking back, right? So you know what? I'm gonna arrest you, put you in these handcuffs, whatever you saying, whatever.
Right.
Then the cops come full throttle and kick some dead in his damn face. So when you see that, what are you thinking, knowing that the situation was pretty much under control?
You know, I'm glad that this was a video that we're talking about. And I would ask anyone, when, especially if you are Black, brown, poor, or other in this country, to take a moment after seeing these kind of videos and breathe, right? That's the first thing that I want us to do, because what naturally comes through my body is the reenactment or the re-traumatization that visually seeing these things happen over and over again to us, to people that can be our father, our brother, our cousin, our son, our daddy, our grandpa, our uncle. And that's not even to say on the female side, because we know that these things happen to Black women as well. What runs through my mind is the lack of professionalism. Like, I could not for the life of me, as a teacher in a classroom, if there was a child that was acting inappropriately, treat them that way. And I get paid to do a job. And that job that they get paid for is taxpayer dollars. And that's the piece of accountability that I think that Black folks, since the Emancipation Proclamation took place and we were so-called freed, right? All we asked for was dignity and to treat us with integrity. And there's a way to do that, because we know that these individuals who are part of this, I call still the slave catch regime, right? If you know the history of law enforcement in this country, they started off as slave catchers. And so the slave catcher regime of 2022, they know how to apprehend and handle white and lighter skinned folks differently. We know this for sure. And so it's not a matter of retraining and retooling. I tell people this all the time. It's a matter of the perspective of the value of Black life, period. And so if we don't have these conversations and bring that piece to light, the system systemically, structurally, institutionally will continue to have its foot on the neck of Black folks.
Definitely. And so how cops are trained, like what they have to go through to become a cop. I personally think a cop, a doctor, ambulance, certain jobs, you're not like a manager at Taco Bell. Your temperament, how you feel about groups of people, all of this shit needs to be managed with a fine comb tooth. Like, I can't look at you like you're a construction worker or anything else. Being this involved with humans, how you feel about other people matters. Like, how quick are you to get upset? Do some type of diagnostic. I don't know how this can happen, but do some type of diagnostic when you say, hey, do you have a temper?
Yeah.
What do you do when you get mad?
Yeah.
What do you do when you get frustrated? Because cops, or all these positions, are like regular individuals. I know you got a family. I know you hungry probably because lunch is coming, right? I know you got human needs, but in these positions, you have to conduct yourself differently, because like you just said, the slave catcher thing, I always remind people of this. And I'm seeing the police interactions, and to me, it's just matching up. It's just matching up with everything I've seen throughout history. And people say it's just a few bad apples. Look, your uniform is the same, man. I don't know. Y'all don't tell on each other.
Right.
How am I supposed to know who good and who not?
Right.
So your uniform, when you're on a team, right? If you play in the Lakers, anybody with a Laker uniform finna get it.
It's to get it. It's to get it.
Anybody, you can't say, hey man, no, I don't play for the team, bro. I'm just number 20 tonight. You're like, no,
not at all.
You see what I'm saying? So, and this guy, and this is a homeless man. That could be a piece of it, everybody. That the homeless are underprotected, so you can feel like you can do something to these individuals and it don't and nothing happens to you. And then the camera, why is the camera there? They don't care. Police officials, police chiefs, whoever in charge, they don't give a shit about your camera. Because they assault us with the camera. They check it. Yep, it's on. Huh. I'm like, wait a minute. So they must know this camera doesn't mean I'm going to get in trouble.
Right.
Right, Sonia?
Right. Absolutely. That's the accountability piece. So I will tell you here in Sacramento, this is several years ago, and I'm not, if you remember the Joseph Mann case, several years ago, unhoused, suffering from mental health crises on Del Paso Boulevards in the Heights, was walking down the street. He was obviously in a manic state. The people who even called the police said that he's just someone we know on the streets who is suffering from mental health issues. The police officers that showed up used their vehicles as a weapon and tried to run him over. And when they couldn't, they got so frustrated. So what you're asking in regards to the level of your mental capabilities and capacities to stay calm during times of pressure when dealing with people who might not be in the right mental state is critical to the job of a police officer, a doctor, an ambulance worker, a firefighter. I would even say a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because these are we're dealing with people with different personalities, a counselor, a psychologist. These individuals need to have extra screening. And what I've always proposed is two things. I propose that not only do they go through mental evaluation on an annual basis, but that law enforcement officers carry a type of insurance, liability insurance. Think about when you get in a car accident. That first accident, your rates might not go up. That second accident, your rates might go up. That third accident, your insurance might get canceled. What if we had a policy across this nation that if law enforcement officers didn't carry their own insurance liability, that when an instance of excessive force or abuse or murder happens on any streets, that taxpayer dollars didn't pay for to go to those families and to the community, but that insurance would kick in, just like car insurance, right?
There we go.
So those are two ideas that we've talked about. The other thing is when we're speaking of unhoused people and people who are very vulnerable to systems and positions of control. Mm-hmm. So Joe Mann was literally, when I say he's like 5'2", 120 pounds soaking wet, couldn't hurt a fly. Yes, he had a knife, a small pocket knife. They shot him so many times that his limbs were almost decapitated from his body. They weren't even in arm's reach of him to be in harm. So the knife was mute, right? That is not a factor to shoot someone to death. Those two officers are no longer with Sac PD. One retired earlier. The other one called himself quitting, but then wanted his job back and tried to sue the department to get his job back. It was a whole mess. But what came out of that is that Sac PD paid the money to get all of their officers equipped with body cameras. The second thing that came out of that is that within 30 days of an instance of excessive force or a officer-involved shooting, within 30 days, the department would release that video footage. So that's a positive thing that came out of the urging of community members coming to the city council meetings saying that we want this to be the norm so that we can see accountability and transparency. But I agree with you. A lot of officers are like, F this camera, I'm going to do what I'm going to do and let the chips fall where they may. And if I lose my job, which 9 times out of 10, they don't, they get reprimanded. We can think about Stephon Clark. They went through all the video footage. Those 2 officers were put on administrative leave. And one of those officers are back on the streets in Oak Park right now to this day, working the streets of Sacramento. So yes, there is a snubbing of a nose to a certain degree, giving the middle finger saying that bump these cameras, we're going to do what we do. So that's systemically a part of the system. That means that it's systemically built into the way policing happens in this country.
And that's a real important piece. And another piece, I think, like back in the day, what some elders told me one time is when Officer Johnny came to the neighborhood, he knew me.
Yeah.
He was black.
Yeah.
Mexican, maybe. He knew all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He knew Bobby was a little crazy.
Yeah.
He knew Jimmy be drinking too much. So he's handling them with care based on the comfortability.
Yes.
We get officers. Look, we in Sacramento, California, everybody. We from South Sacramento. This is one of the urban communities in our city. You will have an officer from Roseville. You'll have an officer from a suburb 42 minutes away that was sent to police damn near animals, because what people don't realize about the hoods in America, most Americans don't have to go there. When I was going to college in Roseville, I was shocked to know none of my classmates have ever been to South Sacramento 32 minutes away. None of them. So I said, hey, so somebody want to ride with me to my brother's house real quick? We got like 2 hours. Where are we going, Harrison? South Sacramento, Florin Road. South Sacramento, Florin Road. Where? Never been there. I get off on Florin Road. They locking the door. They looking around. I'm like, oh my God.
Culture shock.
I'm from I'm from an environment where normal people don't have to come. So say you got a 26-year-old white man who was raised in an all-white community. Now you give him a gun to patrol TI, to patrol Terrell Owens. That's who we are in his mind, family.
Absolutely.
If you've never been around nobody black, all you can do is grab from what you see about us.
Yeah.
This is Stephen Curry. This is goddamn KD. He's pulling from the references he has.
Absolutely.
But then when he gets around us, that's a messed up position to put somebody in who's never been around black people.
So that's the system and the structure, right?
Yeah.
That's we know who we can go and get to do this job, right? We have those people who sometimes, so I think that there are 3 types of cops who come in. There's the one cop who's like, oh, I really want to change the world and I want to be a help to people and humanity, right? And then they get into the system and they're like, damn, my hands is tied. And they gave me a pair of handcuffs, but they really handcuffing my hands to do something that's effective in the community.
Yep.
Then you get the cop who is like, I'm coming in gun blazing because I was in the military and I know how to really shoot them up, bang, bang, right? And so my mental stability is not even there because I've been traumatized with post-traumatic stress syndrome for being out in the war zone. So I'm treating everybody like they're an enemy. And then you get the third kind of cop who is the one that's just like, I don't see nothing bad happening to me. And I'm just going to patrol with the monkey, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. 3 types of cops who show up. Yeah. All 3 of them, in my opinion, the system is failing to be successful in any situation, especially if they're policing communities that they are not familiar with.
And we struggle with the mistrust of police officers. I always say it. I'm 42 years old. I have no warrants. I have no jail record to speak of. When a cop gets behind me, I'm nervous.
Yep.
This is a problem, family. When they pull me over, I'm nervous. I'm on tilt because I've seen so much and heard so much about these interactions. Now, have I had an interaction with a fair cop? I have. Multiple times. Let me go. I see you tripping right now. I'm gonna let you go. All races of cops. I've had a good cop. I'm not gonna front. I've had a cop say, you know what, I'm gonna let you go right now.
Right.
But all too often, and this is the thing, this happened, Sonia, after I became a grown man and I'm in corporate America and I got on a button-up shirt and I'm not that dark of a man and I'm 5'8". I'm not stupid. Right. I know all these things make a difference, right?
Absolutely.
But growing up in my neighborhood where it was a lot of young urban men, some of them doing things they weren't supposed to, the cops treated them like garbage. And I didn't know what I was looking at as a kid. Seeing the cops come and know their first name, know their mama name, talk mess about people in their family, pull them to the side, take the money out their pocket, don't really bring them to jail. So I've seen all this abuse from cops, and I'm still not seeing a police officer and cussing them out or being belligerent. I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt, as African people do. Well, no, maybe you're different. Maybe this is going to be different. You see what I'm saying? But this video shows us we need to keep our alarm up. Like, we need to keep on the lookout, because what is this about? Like, I wouldn't do what he did to that dude. No job I've ever, there's nothing I do in my life that I would even consider treating someone like this.
Absolutely.
So why is he doing it? You know what I mean?
And I'm glad that you mentioned the juxtaposition of, okay, this is what I experienced as a child and witnessed and saw firsthand and still try to make, peace with. And then this is how I've been treated as an adult. I will tell you, growing up in South Sacramento, and I kind of alluded to this last week, I was that kid when I graduated high school. I was like, I want out. I don't want to be the statistic of what it means to come out of the hood and not make it out. Like, I really and truly felt like the hood wasn't good enough for me, and I needed more, right? And so in leaving, what it also left me with was an experience of a Black cop, a police officer who put a gun to my head. And I blocked it out for so long, Harrison. I will tell you, for years, I could not for the life of me remember the name and face of that officer, because and that was one of the reasons I wanted out. This was an officer who patrolled all of our football games. He worked with the Sacramento Police Department. He worked with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department. He worked his way up. He was one of the bad Black cops because he wanted to prove himself to the other cops, right? This officer, former officer, has become an elected official in the state of California and is back again, now elected as sheriff of our lovely county. And so when I think of officers, the staining on my psyche is that one cop. So bump if I've run into a whole host of good cops, which I have too. I've cried. I am not gonna lie, as a woman, I have cried in front of a cop and be like, please, please, please let me. I have done it. I promise you I have. And I have been getting, hey, ma'am, don't speed no more. And I was guilty. Give me the ticket. And then I have also Sandra Bland a few officers and be like, give me my fucking ticket and let me go. Do your job, write your ticket, let me go. I got things to do and I don't want to sit here chummying it up with you. Don't ask me how I've been that person. But I will also tell you, every cop that I come in contact with, Jim Cooper's face shows up.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Because because it's one cop from my childhood who my brother, how can I put this? My brother was doing a lot of things in our neighborhood. He was very well known. When they busted my brother, that guy you just mentioned was there. And this guy, my brother had a picture of my deceased father in his wallet. This guy looked at the picture of my deceased father and said, "Who's this clown?" I'm in 8th grade. They raid my brother's house. They're celebrating, Sonia. They're hitting 5. They're like, "We finally got him." Yeah. And me and my mom show up. He's so disrespectful. It's so funny you mentioned this guy's name. I terrorized my community. Terrorized my neighborhood. And then one day, after talking to my brother on the phone, who's incarcerated doing 25 to life, right? I see a billboard with this motherfucker's face on the billboard. I said, boy, the system I live in, people don't get it. Because you may not had to have a relationship with cops based on your community, based on your family being involved in certain things. They always raiding your house, throwing all your shit around. I see this guy on the billboard. I said, no way.
Yes way.
He didn't got to the top.
Yes. And that's the disheartening piece about it, right? Because I was a straight A student and in a hood school. I was a stellar representation of this district, always called out for come do this thing and come do that thing, right? I was an athlete. I was a cheerleader. I was a student leader. This officer could have handled that situation so much different. Now, granted, we lived where we lived, right? I can remember when we moved to South Sacramento, we came from Oakland, and my mom was like, Sacramento ain't no way that Sacramento can be worse than Oakland or Chicago. She grew up in the hoods in the projects of Chicago. So in her mind was like, Sacramento cannot be worse than Chicago, and most definitely can't be worse than Oakland. So with that perspective, we get here and we keep to ourselves. My mother has standards. You don't come home, you don't do X, Y, and Z. So we told the line. I'm listening to the walkie-talkie on this man's uniform. And the vehicle, so there was a drive-by shooting that day in our neighborhood down 29th Street, Garden Block, you know the neighborhood, drive-by shooting. And my mother drove at that time a white on white Delta 88 Oldsmobile. They were looking for, and I hear it on the walkie-talkie, we're looking for a brown on brown Cutlass Supreme. And so I told you sometimes I got a smart mouth. So I said to the officer, this car, white and brown are not the same. And if you don't know your colors, you shouldn't be an officer. And my window was cracked. And he was like, roll the window down. I was like, why? Because I didn't do nothing and I'm not rolling. So I was kind of like, militant even back then. I was like, I got to question why you pulling me over and you a man and you trying to manhandle me and you telling me you have a gun pointing at my window, first off. And I know that I've seen you hundreds of times before because you terrorized my community. And so his image, his face always shows up on the, I don't care what body you are. I don't care how nice you try to be to me. His face shows up on every cop's face that I've ever interacted with.
This is divine intervention, God damn it. Because this man, this black cop that we talking about, everybody, has done enough to us that when we think of bad cops in our mind, we have a particular individual. I don't care what city in America you in. I don't care what state. That should never be the case. And this gentleman we're talking about is moving up the political ladder. So all of this always made me feel like how I feel about history, how I feel about this country, how I feel about white supremacy. God damn it, I'm right.
Yes,
I'm right, because he was rewarded, Sonia.
He was rewarded. He became the chief of Sacramento Police Department. He became the sheriff of Sacramento County Sheriff's Department. He then became an elected state legislator for the state of California, elected 2 or 3 times. I can't remember which. And he just ran and won unopposed for sheriff again. See? And it's only because the community and people who are activists and vocal and not afraid to say his name and the deeds that he's done in terrorizing our community. I can't tell you how many election cycles that I have said, I've gotten on my platforms and said, don't vote for Jim Cooper. This is what he's done. I've brought on and had other people in community, just like yourself, who said, yes, I can remember when I was a kid, this is what Jim Cooper did to us. And we cannot put this person in office. And every time, because of white supremacy, he makes it look good that he is a representation of our community. Do you know this man comes back to Burbank every year and does a backpack giveaway? And it's like blasphemy.
Does he really?
Yes.
How fucking dare him?
It is so disgusting to me. And I tell my, our former alumni are like, well, our kids need resources too. I'm like, yes, but at what cost? It's like us taking something from the devil, because that's when we remember him being a devil to us. And it's like turning our backs and saying, oh, now come back. No, you're not welcome here. And I wish that, I can meet. I have tried to plan and plot times where he was giving speeches and debates and stuff to try to show up. But I promise you, every time he cancels. And I've never had that opportunity to face him and be like, I want you to remember when I was 18 years old, a straight A student from South Sacramento representing this city well, and you put a gun to my face and told me that you would blow my brains out if I didn't lay on the ground. And I told you, go ahead, try. And only because the lady on the walkie-talkie was like, we spot the car that they leave. His officer partner was an Asian guy. And he said he was the nice cop. They were playing good cop, bad cop. And as the Asian officer, he was like, you can tell he was like, I'm so sorry. I mean, literally when they drove off, me and my sister were in tears of terror because I could not believe a gun was like literally at my head. And this man, a black man who could have been my daddy, my uncle, my cousin, anybody, was pointing a gun and said that they was going to blow my brains out. That is, I'm happy we came to that conclusion, because I think anytime you're in public service, teacher, cop, paramedic, tutor, coach, all of these things, as a former coach myself, one of the most fulfilling things that can happen to me is me seeing an old player. And he's 17 now. And he mentioned something to me that I said or did, and it just warms my heart, right? Yeah.
What about when you're in public service and somebody can come to you and say, hey, man, you ruined my fucking childhood.
Yes.
Like a large part of your actions made me hate cops.
Yes.
How do you sit with yourself? Like, what are you doing it for? Because we see being that asshole in the urban community as a cop pays.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
pays. Man, and it gets you to where you want to get to. You know what I mean? So enough of that story. Me and my sister Sonia was talking about in Indiana how a police officer, a couple police officers had a homeless guy who they said did something wrong, basically. Nothing too egregious, but one of the cops had him down, arrested him doing what they do. Another cop came, kicked him in his face, basically because he was talking. He was talking and saying what he didn't like and what he thought was wrong, and that always gets him too, Sonia. When you're black and you telling them, hey, stop doing this to me, this is police brutality, they do anything to shut you up. So shout out to that brother. Hopefully he sued. They said he was homeless. Hopefully he gets some sort of resolve, because this brother was talking and they kicked him in his face and he just went silent. And I know that can mean a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. You know, the strange thing that I am another cycle of the trauma is that they are hiring Black officers to lead these departments all over these countries, who then become the spokesperson that kind of have to apologize to the Black community for what somebody else did to harm us. And so the chief, I don't know, I want to say he either is the chief, he's up there. Black man got on and did an interview after this incident took place. And he was, I mean, you can see that the brother was in tears and was so apologetic and like, this has to stop. But why are we the ones to be the one to come and apologize for something that somebody did to somebody who looks like that? Is another level of trauma that is so sick, that adds to the oppression, adds to the, as Dr. Joy DeGruy would say, post-traumatic slave syndrome that we suffer with on an everyday basis. I don't care who you are in this country. I don't care what part of the country, what level of education or economic status you reach. If you are Black in this country, you suffer from post-traumatic stress syndrome, period.
Yes, in different ways. And sometimes I think Black folks, Sonia, hold on one second. Let me take that off. I think sometimes Black folks confuse, if you acknowledge how racism and how other groups of people may treat you, have treated you historically or whatever, that's okay. You can feel that way and not be enraged to a point where you hate all races of people. No, but you should be aware so you don't take it out. My biggest thing for bringing up a lot of this stuff with you guys, so you don't take it out on yourself. So you don't think it's your skin color. So you don't look at it from the colorism perspective. So you don't think it's something that you did, or maybe it is your fault. You could begin thinking that when the powers that be, people that are in positions of power, are saying, yeah, maybe it was your fault. No, the cop did nothing wrong. That's why it's important to know your history, know about your people, so you can use these moments as empowerment and not as a way just to shit on a cop, because we want to duck our head sometimes until something happened to us. You know what I mean?
Yep.
All right. Now, so enough of that story. We're going to get into the next story, family, where we have a young man. And actually, when I first seen this video, it was just pretty weird to me, because it was obvious the young Black man had some sort of ailment or something that he was dealing with, right? So in Milwaukee, police are investigating a scenario shown on video that's circulating on social media, in which a white man is seen grabbing a Black man by the neck while accusing him of stealing a bike. Now, this video is taken on October 10th at about 4 p.m. It begins with the white man, who is 62 years old, on the phone saying he saw a Black man, which is a Black man who's 24 years old. Now, he may not look 24, but he's actually 24. Before I finish reading this, I'm going to play the video so me and Sonia can talk about it, because this was wrong on so many levels. And Black folks need to be aware of situations like this, just so we can know how to combat it in the future. So hold on one second. Let me play it real quick. Let me rewind that.
Let go of his neck. He's not going.
Stole the bike right out of a friend of mine's yard.
A witness stepped in and started recording as a 62-year-old man held the neck of a 24-year-old man who activists say is developmentally disabled. We're not showing their faces because no one's been charged yet.
I didn't touch it.
The older man tells a 911 operator he was holding the young man because he believed his friend stole a neighbor's bike 2 days earlier.
And he had one of the younger boys by their neck, like kind of strangling them. So I got out of the truck and I approached him, and that's kind of when I started recording him.
D'Angelo Wright tells 12 News he wasn't sure what was going on, but knew it wasn't right.
Because there's no reason why this man should be grabbing this boy by the neck.
The man didn't answer when we went to his house near 25th and Beecher for his side of the story. Community activist Von Mays organized a protest in.
Okay, so that's enough. So Sonia, so when you see that, because I always think too, what would I do if a young kid stole my son's bike? White, red, black, Asian, any colored child, any nationality child. What would I do if they stole my son's bike? What if I knew they were in my yard taking my granddaughter's toys, whatever? Right. Well, I look at that video. No, man. There's you grabbing this young man's neck, and if you hear him talk, you can tell something's wrong with him.
Yes.
How insensitive. Like, this is some race war type shit. We Africans, we don't even think this way. We wouldn't accost him, hold the bike, hold him there, cops come, whatever you want to do. But grabbing this young man by his neck, that's completely out of bounds, right?
Absolutely. So you are going to physically use force to overpower someone that you obviously, because I don't think, had it been someone of a stature that was the same size or bigger than that white man, that he would have had the courage, the guts, the balls, the whatever, to think that he can physically restrain, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one question, is that we're going to take advantage of those who are smaller and less powerful than us. The other question is this sheer audacity that white men in particular have when it comes to, this was mine, right? So I always say that, and I like that you presented it in that form of what would happen if I saw the people who stole my kids something. I can remember I grew up in the Bay Area, and one Christmas, my mom got us these brand new bicycles, and we went to the corner grocery store, the corner little market, and my sister's job was to stand outside of the market while I went in it and watch the bikes. And then I was supposed to come out, watch the bikes, and she was supposed to go in and get her stuff. She was impatient, and she wasn't in there less than a minute. I go out, both our bikes are gone.
Oh.
Here's the thing. When we got the bikes, my mom took them down to the Richmond Police Department and had them the serial numbers put on them. So back in the day, I don't know if they do this anymore, but you can go to the police department, get a serial number etched into your bike, and then that kind of keeps track of. And if an officer, and you make a report that it was stolen, officers will try to keep a lookout for your bike. And so I can remember maybe about 6 months later, I told my mom after school one day, them is the people that's my bike. That's my bike. And my mom was like, don't worry about it. We got the serial number. My mom, we think we gangster. My mom got, and these were some big boys too. My mom got out her vehicle and she said, come here, young man. And he came. She said, let me see that bike right there. One was yellow and one was blue. Let me see that bike right there. He said, ma'am, why do you want to see my bike? I believe you stole my child. Do you know my mama? That day we was loading in our bikes into the back of our car because she told, I would take me to your mama and your grandma and your daddy and them right now so that I can tell them that you stole these bikes, and we're the owners of them. Mm-hmm. But imagine if we had a community where we actually looked out for each other. And that's the reason that I kind of tell that story, because I know for that young man that took out his camera and was like, there's something wrong with this scenario. Let me video this. Mm-hmm. There needs to be more of us like that in community, because we can solve these kind of issues, one, without getting violent with each other. I always say, call Big Mama and them. They can solve any problem. Don't call the police. Call Big Mama and them. They can solve any problem without any violence going on. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, as a teacher on every school campus that I ever taught on, the hall monitors would be like, if something go down on Miss Lewis's hall, we know everything gonna be good. She is going to make sure to separate kids and talk some sense into one of them to make sure that the fight doesn't continue. Mm-hmm. But you have other people who are in positions of power who will say, I'm not stepping in. I'm not putting my body on the line for the potential threat of me getting hurt. Right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to let these kids fight, and I'm going to wait for the hall monitors to show up, or the principals, or we're going to call the police. Everybody gets into conflict. We all get into conflict. It's how we deal with those conflicts and how the people around us help us deal with those conflicts. This could have been handled so differently. So I'm so disheartened, one, that a grown-ass white man would put his hands on the throat of someone else. But secondarily, that he was so scared not even to come to the door when the police, the recorders, the news reporters came to ask him a question on his side of it. You was bold enough in public to put your hands around the neck, but when the white man came to knock at your door to do a news report on it, you don't want to come to the door.
Yeah, and this is a telltale sign of how they feel about us, whether they saying it or not. Because even though I respect the brother who came and was filming, but I understand the brother couldn't have been violent because the cops would have been called on him. But if I was the brother, I would have been a little bit more forceful because he was taking his hand off his neck. I would have let the white dude know, hey, I'll fuck you up myself.
Right.
But but it's too much that can come from that.
Yeah.
But I need you to be not scared, but damn near. Because
Yeah.
he's looking past the black man with his hand on his throat. This is a sign of how they feel about a lot of us, because, and we know this to be true, there's no fucking way he would put his hand on the throat of a white kid, that because that young black dude, he had hair on his face or whatever.
Yeah.
He turned out to be 24, but
Yeah.
see, that don't matter. If he was 15, 14, newsflash, when you black in America, if you 12, they're going to treat you like you're 26.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
this is a travesty, and hopefully this young man, because he's disabled, hopefully his family files a lawsuit. Hopefully his family keep bringing it to his door, because what I understand, they've been protesting in front of the man's house, and that's cool. But we gotta continue to like fight for these kind of things, and also be stand-up individuals so we don't get disrespected like this, because this is a sign of disrespect. All these incidents we seeing, because this guy isn't a cop. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, as a former activist in Sacramento, I can tell you that there are so many levels and forms of protest that they can do. I love putting the pressure and showing up at this man's house every day. Like, that sends a message that we don't want you here. Two, you are not going to treat people like this in our neighborhood. But secondarily, they can create leaflets. So I'm always thinking about, from an activist organizer perspective, what are some other steps that you can do? Create some leaflets around how do we protect ourselves in community, pass them out to all of the neighbors, then take that information or create a survey of, have you experienced this kind of thing from this particular neighbor in the community before, and get some data and evidence to then take to the people who are your elected officials. Taking that information to your city council meetings, your board of supervisor meetings, and say, hey, we have this problem in our neighborhood and we need for y'all to fix this problem. Create some ordinances, because that's what we do here in Sacramento, is that we go and we present our ideas, and hopefully our ideas are heard, and they turn around and they create an ordinance around that issue. But secondarily, they can then go to elected officials or run for office, right? Because we want to shift the dynamics of power within those communities. There are so many people around this nation right now, because we're in election season, and this is an important election. If people don't want to realize it enough, yes, we ain't voting for president this time, but it's an important election season. And we have people all across this country where the dynamics could shift one way or another, with one elected official being Republican or Democrat, because that's going to shift the narrative on how power plays out in this country. So we have to be really intentional in the states of Louisiana, the state of Florida, and the state of Georgia on who we're electing into these positions, because it's going to speak volumes to what the outcome is across the entire country. California don't have that as a worry. We've been a blue state on paper, and last week I told you we are a blue state with red politics a lot of time, but we are a blue state nonetheless. The likelihood of it turning red in the next 50 to 100 years is slim to none. And there are other states like that around the country. But because we are a blue state, we still have to be conscious of the red states and the impact that they have on the global perspective of this country's politics.
Definitely. And I think I want us as Black folks to get to a position where we have our own infrastructure that deals with most of our problems.
Yeah.
And I was one at a time where I felt all levels of politics was nefarious. Like, I didn't have any hope in it, right?
Yeah.
Until I got older, like once you read and you see things, you say, okay, the right person in office can spark change, can spark
Absolutely.
an idea. Because I do know if I'm a lawyer, because I had the mayor of Citrus Heights on my show a while back, and
Mhm.
I learned because I didn't even know Citrus Heights had its own mayor. But this is the sister, right? This is the sister.
Yeah.
I'm talking to her.
Yep.
She with us.
Yeah.
You see, and she's speaking to, hey, I'm the mayor of this small city, and I want to fight for Black people. When George Floyd, when Stephon Clark, I'm fighting, but it's me. And then I have 12, 13 people that I have to convince. And I knew this kind of, but to hear a Black woman in politics tell me this, I'm like, wait, let me take a step back then. Because so I told her, so okay, so how can I help you?
Yes, absolutely.
How can we help you then? Because you by yourself with a mentality, that's not enough.
No,
You
not
need
at all.
people. Because she said there's, like my brother Chris be talking about, there's meetings where the public can come and say what needs to be changed.
Absolutely.
And I didn't realize and don't forgive me for being kind of frivolous to some of this stuff, but a lot of us are. She said, hey, when people come and tell them what needs to happen, that's supporting me, because I said, see, I said that should happen. But if I say Black folks want this and don't nobody come and say they want it, they're going to look at me like, wait, you sure?
Right.
Because they're not here supporting you. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to
Absolutely.
politics, figure out a way to get involved. If you
Yeah.
think the presidential campaigns are a sham, like I do to a degree, fine. There's so many levels you can help out. There's so many pieces of influence that you can garner. There's people who lose elections who was really about that life, who was really going to be the person to get in there, but they lost so bad and they didn't have the money to garner up all the attention, right? So we got to be aware of all this.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you say that. And the thing that I tell folks when it comes to election, I too, when I left college, I was like a rebel. I was like, I ain't voting for no other president. And I had an auntie in Dallas, and she was like, she was on the Clinton campaign trail, and she was like, I know these people in positions of power. All I got to do is make a phone call. But what I need you to do is not think about the president, is think about your local politics, because that impacts you directly. And I didn't realize that. And so I began to look at that, and I was like, oh, okay, who then, now that I have children, who then impacts my children, right? The school board, and they're elected. And so do I want to consider running for a school board position, right? I've considered it. No, don't try to convince me, because that's just not in the cards right now, right? But I was watching, there is a she is Middle Eastern Indian, I believe, and I might be wrong. Elk Grove Unified School District. She was a school council meeting. Her name is Bobby Singh. She currently is the mayor of Elk Grove. She is a woman of color, right? She is not as light as you, but not as dark as I. And she's Middle Eastern. She's Indian. She is, in my opinion, very anti-Black. And so when you talk about Black issues, even though she is a person of color, her naivety, right, allows for this system to show her that we all can make it here. This is like a globe. We are diverse here. Everybody loves everybody, and we all get along. And the moment that the angry Black woman shows up, or the dangerous Black man shows up and speaks their truth in city council meetings, they get shut down. And so it was funny, because today, it's election time. I got a text message from her campaign office saying, hey, do we have your support? They got all our phone numbers now. They can just text us or send us a message. And so I text back and I said, Bobby Allen Singh is very anti-Black, and I'm going to need her to give me a call directly. She has my number. I didn't get a response. So I was so miffed this morning that I was like, let me take this a step further. So this is the power of the constituent at the local level. I went online, I Googled mayor of Elk Grove. Her email comes up, and I shot her the same email that I had texted her campaign person who had texted me this morning. And I said, I love to have a conversation with you about what I have witnessed as examples and evidence of your anti-Blackness. And so I'm waiting. I fingers crossed that she replies. Elk Grove is a small town. And in those kind of situations, you're right, that Black mayor of Citrus Heights should be able to get those phone calls and immediately act on behalf of her constituents. And I hope that it happens in Elk Grove too.
and the sister I spoke to, her name misses me right now, but she was very, in my opinion, she loved Black people.
Yeah.
She was just in because you mentioned it earlier, she was in my hands are tied type of situation. So I look for loopholes, I look for support, I look for ways around this system that I didn't think was going to be this devious towards me. Is what she said without saying. Absolutely. So that's important. And another thing you just mentioned that I think it's important that we talk about, we always talk about this all skin folk and kinfolk thing. That sounds good. It's funny. It's Black, the colloquialisms that we create. It's pretty damn funny. But this is realer than we would ever think. Like, people outside of our community gonna see an Indian woman, a Mexican woman, this Mexican lady in LA. Come on now. Black folks, I'm sorry to tell you this. A lot of immigrants do not like your Black ass. They come here with the same ideology as white supremacists, and they use those same things until they need something from you, i.e. your vote, i.e. your support. Right?
Your dollars in our community because you didn't opened up 50 beauty supply stores and nail salons in the Black community, and who goes to them places? Black folks.
Come on now.
So
we're an economic base for a lot of people, but don't confuse this with that they like you, that they fucking with you. No. It's profitable. They came here and they said, what group of people spend frivolously, and we can go where they at and kind of don't worry about how we treat them.
And here's another layer on that. I let me just push back just a little bit.
Go ahead.
That there is this narrative intentionally designed by this country to globally have people have a belief about Black Americans. Like, if you went and this is a recent phenomenon that things are changing on the continent of Africa. But prior to about 20 years ago, Africans would even tell you when they come to America, I'm not a Black American, I'm African. Right? Because they wanted to distinguish the fact that I'm not like you.
Yep.
And because they knew with the narrative, the shaping of, oh, you as a, Black woman, that you are poor and you on welfare and you got 100 kids, right? If you're a Black male, you maybe are an entertainer or an athlete, or a drug dealer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have these stereotypes globally, so that when they step foot on American soil, they buy into that narrative until, they get taken advantage of. Because I will say that indigenous people in this country, to a high degree, I got a lot of indigenous people who I can call up today and be like, you got our back? Yeah, we got your back. I was on the front lines of BLM in Sacramento for too many years not to have been able to make those collaborations and build those bridges with the Latinx community.
Yes.
Latinx, La Raza for Black lives, Asians for Black lives, Hmong for Black lives.
Yes.
These are legitimate organizations who are like, yeah, we got it bad, but Black folks got it worse, the worst. And so we're going to stand in the gap for it.
And I, doing what I do, I come into contact with every kind of person. And look, I'm so for the unity. If you're a marginalized person, come on.
Yes.
Let's get with it. But see, we gotta be fair. Like I'm gonna fight for you. When they on your ass, come on now, let's walk. Which way we going? Tell me the direction.
Right.
But when they on my ass, I need you to be right here too. That's it.
Come on.
That's it. And people know that about us, though.
Yes.
People know we really, because when we look at America, when we look at fighting white supremacy, nobody do it like us.
Yeah.
A lot of these groups be like, I don't want no problems.
Right. Absolutely.
I
still to this day, I haven't led, organized a Black Lives Matter protest in 3.5 years, and people still to this day be like, you don't want her to show up. Oh Lord, like they know and it's a shame that you can Google my name and see, yes,
you sure can.
I did that, and yes, I'm very proud of that, and yes, if you want, I can make a few phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd like to be able to have a dignified conversation too, and see where we can come to some consensus. Like
before we even go there, you think I want to march? You think I want to come tell you, hey, why you tripping? Why I even got to do that? Right. Why don't we talk first? I'm human, you're human. Let's treat each other as such.
Absolutely.
You see, all this nefarious shit, we get tired. So when people say the marching, the protesting, the burning down, I say, whoa, Of course, nobody wants their community to be in shambles. But if you're back against the wall, people don't get this. If you're back against the wall, you may do some stuff
Yeah.
that at times may even work against your best interests.
Yeah.
But it's like, damn, what am I do? I got to do something. You see what I'm saying? So don't knock us for trying to do something when a lot of folks don't want to fight at all. Now, before we go, one thing I want to talk about with Sonia, just a little sidebar conversation I want to have because it was on my heart.
Yes.
Every day I'm going with it. So Sonia, like I was saying, being in a position now where I have to run businesses and I have to, my punctuality and my time is sometimes all I have, right? I dealing with Black, I'm speaking specifically to my folks, and Sonia gonna clarify some stuff for us. Black folks, time has to be treated differently. You gotta get there on time. But I'm with you. I've been there. Getting to work a couple minutes late, leaving the house 15 minutes beforehand, speeding, yelling at people in traffic because I'm 3 minutes out. I feel you, but we all need to get to a point where we value time too much. Look, think about it real quick. All of our commodities, money, jewelry, how we hurt people, all the commodities, only thing you can't get back is time.
Yeah.
Relationship, the love of somebody, money, car, all these things can be replaced. My time can't be. Please be on time. Because look, I think if you're an adult, you show up 10 minutes late, fashionably late. That's some fucking book. Yeah. You show up 10 minutes late, 15, 20 minutes late, your kid's with you. Now your kid's on my basketball team and his last strolling in 7 minutes late.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it ain't nothing. We didn't start it. You know how much I can do in 7 minutes? So give me information about why we late.
So I will say this, that I too have struggled my entire life. I mean, I thank God that I had a father who was in the military. So he was like, let's go. We are going to be punctual, right? Thank God I married a man who is an hour early to everything. He goes to work. I'd be like, they ain't paying me for that hour. So I ain't giving them that hour. My time. But as a businesswoman, I will now say that I appreciate time in a different way now that I run my own business. And so punctuality is important. But as I was sharing with you when you mentioned this topic, and I love it, and I laugh about it because I did an internship when I was in college and I went away to Ghana, and I had this king of this community. I can't remember what his I think he was the king. He was the head of this community, right? And I had this woman who was like, she was the head mother of the community. And she said, we don't do anything until it feels right. And that time is a part of a feeling in our bodies. And so when you shared that with me, I wanted to pull up just something that I use sometimes. The MBT people, they say that the tradition of African setting, according to the MBT people, time is a two-dimensional phenomenon with a long past and a present with no virtual future. And so if we don't even conceptualize what the future is, we can't sometimes be present in the moment. And so contrary to the linear time that is Western,
it is. We got to keep it. It is.
We got to keep it real, right?
Yeah, it is.
European concept.
Yes.
Contrary to the linear time of concept in Western thought with an infinite past, present, and future. So to the Western mind, there's an infinity that is never ending. To the African, the future and the present, we don't know about it yet. We are thinking about the past.
But damn, everything is about our DNA and our history. She told you we don't show up till it feel right. God. Hey, ain't nothing truer than that. So we can just stop right there.
How many times has Big Mama and them said it wasn't supposed to happen, right? How many times, do we go to church and they be like, it wasn't God's timing? It's a feeling. And I do want to be respectful as a businesswoman, as a person who, so I hold people who, for example, I was at a school board meeting with Twin Rivers a couple of months back, fighting for a community. And I felt like they held that community hostage because they kept prolonging the meeting. Right. And so I made the comment when I got on the mic for my 2.5 minutes. I had to make the most out of my time on the mic. And I said, how dare you waste all these people time. These people who have been to work and work blue collar jobs and got to get up tomorrow and figure out how to get their kids to daycare and then to school and to make sure meals, y'all didn't feed them, but they're here on their own time to give
Mhm.
to you to share what their concerns are, and you're disrespecting them for time. So I think that it's a two-way street sometimes that is manipulated to the advantage of that Western ideation, that because it's linear and we think that we can see into the future, which we can't, then
See?
we value that more than we value the future.
See, so y'all frustrate me, but my history is more important. See, and I kind of see, I didn't know it was that deep, Sonia. I just kind of figured we've had to work so much on
I
other
like
people's
that though,
time
right?
continuing. We've been
Absolutely.
working so much based on when somebody else said get up that we said, nah, I get up when it feel right.
Yeah. And I mean, I like what you said earlier, that coming from a slave perspective,
Yes.
that damn it, I know they want me here at this time. I'm gonna take my time to get there at that time that I'm gonna be on time, because I don't want them lashes. I don't want that smoke. But I'm gonna take my time getting there. And if that means, like, I can remember being that kid. I was that girl. I hit the alarm clock at least 3-4 times in the morning. Like, yeah, my alarm clock went off. I am not a morning person. I tell my clients today, don't call me before 10 a.m. You're going to get the groggy voice, Sonia, because she was probably up doing something. I have children. And so when I put my children to bed at night, then that's my time to decompress. So think of it also in that perspective. Think about all of the stresses and the strains that are on our lives. And when do we really get to decompress? And I also, just let me end with this, is that things that our ancestors did not get, they didn't get an opportunity to rest and put down their work. And so if any time that you get to take a nap, show up late, take a holiday, a vacation, all of those, do that for your ancestors, because they didn't get that as an opportunity.
See, and yeah, because that's the thing. When I hear people say we're lazy, I think, how fucking dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you call us lazy? You owe us a lot of money based on our free labor.
Yeah.
It was really, really free. You know what I mean?
Lazy people couldn't have built this country.
Yes. And and people debate me on that. They say, built, you're kind of taking it too far when you say built, Harrison. I say
built
it, man, but go ahead and look at the White House. Look at the structures. Look at it real close. Go look at it up close. Yeah, we built that. There's a whole bunch of stuff that our hands built, and then afterwards we didn't get nothing for it. Where they do that at?
No.
What other people
that
built big ass monuments for somebody and said, okay, go back and be my slave. Go back and get raped. Go back and not get adequate food or adequate anything. Come on now. People inherently, like the epigenetics in your body, I think sometimes be like, nah, don't do that.
Absolutely.
I had to do that, so you don't got to do that.
Right.
Yes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. This is my sister, Sonia. We're going to be doing this on a weekly basis, hitting these topics, man. And it's always necessary for me to have an idea about something, and my counterpart or whoever I have on my show can bring historical perspective, because perspective is, I'm not this big I'm right dude. Like, I don't have to be right. I think I know some stuff, but I don't have to be right about everything. And I'm willing to come down off of whatever hill I'm on to get an understanding with somebody, so I can better help y'all. If I'm more on point, if I know more information, I'm gonna be better suited to help people. This whole YouTube thing, this whole sensationalism thing that people take part in, I can't do it like that. Like, I can't lie to you. I don't, what Cardi B's doing, I like all my people, but some of this shit don't float my boat, so I can't talk about that. You know what I mean? So I gotta be honest with me, because I'm gonna see y'all in the street like I do, and I gotta be me then too. You feel me? So this is the Melanated Convo podcast. My sister Sonia-Williams-Lewis. Sonia, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Facebook at Sonia-Williams-Lewis, or Ascribe Success, and that's ASCRIBE Success. You can find me there on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Ascribe Ed. And I look forward, reach out. If you feel like there's a topic that we should be talking about, hit, Harrison or I up so we can talk about these things. The hope is that we spark conversation, not just in this fashion in this platform, but that you are having conversations in your households from young to old. Make this an intergenerational conversation.
Yes, young to old conversations. People don't know. Once you start caring about something, your life changes.
Yeah.
Pick the thing. It don't matter what it's about. Once you, but put that into black. If you start caring about black folks, excuse me, how you talk about them, how you reference them, how you protect them, how you don't protect them.
Right.
All these things matter. And that's being on code is an important part of this journey that we own. So everybody, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Melanated Convo podcast. My Instagram is melanatedconvo100 is where you can find me. The melanatedconvo.com. Melanatedconvo.com is where you can find all the shows. The YouTube page is The Melanated Convo. This is your brother Harrison. Another great episode with my sister Sonia.